What's going on, Packer fans? Welcome back to the Pack a Day podcast. Happy Sunday. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Got some Packer news today from Saturday, I should say, in the fact that David Bakhtiari is the latest to have his contract restructured to save some salary cap space. So what I want to do today is go over that, kind of take a look at where Green Bay's at from a salary cap standpoint. And I also want to go over void years in general. I think there's obviously a much better understanding now from a Packer side of things and from a fan side of things of like how some of this stuff works, but I know there's still a ton of questions out there. So I want to break down in a little bit greater detail exactly what a void year is, what it means, how it works, etc. So we'll go over that in just a moment. Let's start with the David Bakhtiari news. Green Bay takes about $11.58 million in base-ish salary. We'll get to more of that in just a moment. And they converted into signing bonus in a restructure, basically creating about $9.26 million in overall savings. This was a very expected move. If you haven't had a chance yet, I highly recommend going back and listening to Ken Ingalls and I break down some of the minutia and details and different things that could happen this offseason. Bakhtiari, Aaron Jones, Kenny Clark, all three of these were a series of very expected moves that Green Bay was expected to do to start trying to get to and under the salary cap. They are still far from that. They still have a variety of moves that they're going to need to make to get under the salary cap. I have seen some people say of like, well, you know what, Andy, like they've only got a couple more moves and they'll be under the cap and this is all said and done. And while theoretically, maybe they could potentially like just cut Zadarius Smith, and maybe if Rodgers announces he's coming back with a contract that pushes more money, towards the end, you could probably get to a point where they're under the salary cap just with those two moves alone. Thinking, okay, well that makes things feel much better. Sure. However, that's not taking into effect a lot of things, right? Any potential unrestricted free agents, like, I don't know, maybe Davante Adams, Devondre Campbell, Rasul Douglas, Corey Bojorquez, etc. No restricted free agents, like, I don't know, Alan Lazard, none of your, none of your draft class. The fact that the salary cap, affects right now only 51 players, eventually have to go to 53, a slush fund in season so that you have money to sign players when players get hurt, a practice squad, etc. There is a ton of work still to be done. Now, that's not a doom and gloom scenario. Green Bay has plans for all of that. And yes, let Russ cook, in this case, Russ Ball, not Russell Wilson. So let him cook and let him take care of that. But there's still a lot of moves that need to be made. But these three moves that they've done already were the low-hanging fruit portion of that. I still think Zadarius Smith and an extension for Jair Alexander are the two other pieces of low-hanging fruit. Rodgers probably comes back. They'd work out an extension to lower his salary for this year. That's probably the other piece, assuming that we actually get to the point where he's coming back and he's a member of the Green Bay Packers. Those are probably the easy decisions remaining. The rest then becomes very, very difficult, including, of course, what to do with Davante Adams, Devondre Campbell, etc. So a lot of twists and turns to take. The three that we've seen so far with, again, David Bakhtiari, Kenny Clark, and Aaron Jones, all expected. I've also seen people say, like, well, Andy, you and Ken and other people have been saying, like, nothing can happen until Aaron Rodgers makes his decision. Nothing of, like, the consequence of how the team is going to be affected in the future can happen until Aaron Rodgers makes his decision. And Brian Gutekunst said the same thing in his press conference, like to a T. However, these moves that were made had to get done basically no matter what. Like, in order to feel the team, whether Rodgers is back or not, whether Davante's back or not, whether any of these things, Devondre, etc., no matter what happens from here on out, there were certain moves, and these were three of them, that just had to be completed. There was no question about it. And these three were all a piece of that. Now, in regards to that, I do want to touch base on Bakhtiari's just a little bit, because maybe, just maybe, you could look at this as a positive sign for Bakhtiari and where his prognosis is from an injury standpoint. Now, both Matt LaFleur as well as Brian Gutekunst have stated that they are very bullish on where David Bakhtiari is in his return and confident that he's going to make a full recovery. Bakhtiari said the same thing in his interview with Cheesehead TV. So this has all been trending in the right direction already, right? However, if Green Bay had serious, and I mean serious concerns that, hey, this guy might just never play again, it would be a very tough pill to swallow to say we're going to keep pushing this contract down the road. You'd probably want to get out of it sooner rather than later. Now, Again, they may have done it almost no matter what, because based on where their salary cap is, they just need the money. So it may have been a pill they needed to swallow anyway, but it would be a lot harder. And I mean, a lot harder to swallow if they felt like he didn't, wasn't going to potentially play again. So you could maybe glean a little bit that they feel rather positive about his potential to return moving forward. So something to think about there as well. Now, the other thing I wanted to get into today is these void years. We've seen void years used now a variety of different times, both last year and this year. And what exactly does it mean? I think we all fully understand that by adding void years, you basically split the contract so that you can push money into the future. But what rules are really involved there? How can Green Bay do that? How does it work? That's what I want to get into in a little bit more detail. So I'm going to move forward to a different platform so I can show you this in just a little bit better fashion. So I'll be right back in just a second, and we'll talk about void years. All right, welcome back. So what I want to do is just take a quick look at voids and exactly how they work. So to make things really simple, before we even get to Bakhtiari, I want to take it, just look at a base potential contract. Now this is a contract on its actually simplest possible terms, right? So you've got, let's say, a 2-year deal remaining, 2 years, $14 million deal remaining on a contract. You've got a $6 million base salary this year. You've got an $8 million base salary next year. We're going to say that they have no guarantees. They have no signing bonus left. This is slightly unrealistic as to what a contract would potentially look like at this point, but I want to make it as simple as possible so I can explain just how a simple void year works. So they've got a cap hit this year very easily of $6 million, cap hit next year of $8 million, and no dead cap because there's no guarantees remaining. All right, so that is our very simple, easy to understand contract, just a base salary with a cap hit that is the base salary, no dead money, no guarantees, no nothing, right? However, I want to get this salary cap hit down as much as I possibly can. So I'm going to say, you know what? We're going to add some void years to this deal. We're going to ease our salary cap burden this year, and we're going to push it out into future years. So if I'm going to do this, I'm going to add 3 void years to this potential contract. Now, one of the most common questions or maybe misunderstandings is you're not just taking money and just dropping it into future years. It's not like a credit card per se. So what you're doing is you're basically extending a deal out to 5 total years. If they had 1 year left on their contract, you could still push it to 5 total. If they have 2 left, you can still push it to 5 total. Why only 5? Why is the end game 5? The reason being in how signing bonuses work. The signing bonus is what you're ultimately working with here. Because the structure for a signing bonus makes it so that you pay the money to the player up front in a lump sum, in a cash payment, like a normal signing bonus, right? However, that amount of money is prorated equally throughout the remainder of the contract up to, you guessed it, 5 years. If you sign a 6-year deal, that signing bonus can still only be prorated through 5 years. So they could make this a 50-year deal if they wanted to. The signing bonus can still only go through 5 years. So there's no benefit to you at all to pushing it past 5 years. So that's why you see the max of these contracts and the most void years that you could potentially add on being 4 years, the current year that you have, and then 4 years on top of that. So in this situation, because we had 2 years already, we're adding 3 additional void years to the end of this deal. And again, you can't just take the $5 million that you're going to put into signing bonus and put it all in this final year. Another key here is that it has to be spread equally through the remainder of the contract through up to 5 years. So what we're doing in a very simple restructure here, a very simple void, is we're taking $5 million off of this base salary from the $6 million base, and we're going to move it into a signing bonus. So I'm going to have a $1 million base salary now instead of a $6 million base salary, and my signing bonus gets prorated equally, $5 million through 5 years, and it's going to be $1 million per season for the remainder of the contract. That's how the signing bonus is going to structure. So I end up with a salary this year of $2 million instead of a cap hit of $6 million, which means I saved $4 million on my salary cap this season. It means next year now, instead of $8 million, I have $9 million because I have a signing bonus of $1 million on there. And then it means that this last year, technically this prorates throughout, but because there's actual no contract here, you're going to see all of this money actually hit in 2024. So I'm actually going to pay this $3 million in 2024, and this is ultimately going to go away with the voids. So I end up right now with a $6 million cap hit this year, $8 million next year, to $2 million this year, $9 million next year, and $3 million the following season. So I basically took $4 million off of this season, moved 1 of it to next year, and 3 to the following year. That's as simple as it gets. And then as far as a dead cap standpoint, right? Your dead cap is your signing bonus or how much guarantees you have remaining on the deal. So I would have to, this would all accelerate. If I were to all of a sudden want to cut this player now, I now owe him $5 million this season. I would save the $1 million in base salary, but I'm going to have $5 million all that I have to pay up here all at once. Next year, again, if I would cut him, I would save money because I don't have to pay this full $8 million in base salary, but I have a $4 million dead cap hit that year. You could do some things with June 1st, et cetera, et cetera. But that's basically the gist of how a basic contract works. Let's take a look and how void years work. Let's take a look at how David Bakhtiari's works specifically. Now, this is going to look a lot different, right? You have got a lot of different things going on here. You've got a signing bonus that's already in play. You've got a base salary. You've got roster bonuses, a per game bonus, a workout bonus, cap hits, dead cap. There's a lot to go over. I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible. For the most part, you can ignore per game and workout bonuses, and you can even ignore, for the most part, the signing bonus that already exists. That's going to stay there no matter what. What we want to look at is this base salary and this roster bonus all together. Roster bonus works the same as base salary. Right now, it's all set to be paid this season. If I move it into signing bonus, I can prorate it throughout the length of the deal. So you guessed it, right? I want to add 2 years on top of this, 2025 and 2026, void years where there's no base salary, and I want to convert as much of this base salary and roster bonus into signing bonus, and then that will prorate through the next few seasons, including this season, 22, 23, 24, 25, and 26. The per game and workout are basically going to stay the same with a slight adjustment. We'll get a final cap hit, and then those dead cap hits will adjust as well. So let's take a look at what that looks like. All right. So how this works right now is we can only get his base salary down to $1.12 million. We can't bring it down to $1 million or less than that because of how vested he is as a player. The minimum contract that he can have for how many years he's played in the league is $1.12 million. All right. We're able to save about $2.1 million, a little bit less than that in base salary by moving it to signing bonus. But we were also able to save this full 9.5 roster bonus. Now, very quick aside, you might see that this per game salary is different. That's because he didn't play the majority of last year, and these are likely to be earned or unlikely to be earned incentives. So actually Green Bay gets a savings here because he didn't play the majority of last year. That's a bit more complicated. We can ignore that for now. This has nothing to do with the restructure. It's just a savings that Green Bay basically gets because those bonuses are no longer likely to be earned based on what happened last year. Again, ignore that for now, but that's the reason that this is different, all right? What we're focusing on is this roster bonus and this base salary. So now we take a look at it. This roster bonus in 2022 is nuked. We owe nothing there, and the base salaries moved down almost $1.2 million per season. And we're taking that total, which is again a little over $11 million, and we're taking that and we're prorating that signing bonus through the remainder of that contract. So it ends up actually being $2.316 million. That's going to be a signing bonus per season. So we have to add that 2.316 to his existing signing bonus that's already out there to get the 11.084 million. So signing bonus becomes 11.084.014 million for the next 3 seasons, and then 2.316 million the following 2 seasons. So we've cleared that entire roster bonus. We've cleared almost the entirety of that base salary, at least as much as we possibly could. Added a little bit of signing bonus here. Remember, his per game bonus went down based on not playing last year, and everything else is going to remain the same. So what we end up with is a cap hit that is almost $10 million less for this upcoming season to actually save this upcoming year and be able to, again, get under the salary cap. Next year, it goes up a little over $2 million. The following year, it goes up again a little over $2 million, and then you're going to get about $4.6 million in dead cap on that 2025 season. Again, assuming there's not restructures, extensions, etc. in the future. They also have an out in this contract in 2024. Next year, it basically just makes sense to have him on the salary cap no matter what, unless he's literally to the point where he can no longer play. Technically, they would save a little over $1 million by releasing him if he gets to the point where he can't play anymore, which again, nobody's even speaking into existence. But if they get to 2024 and he's just not the same player that he once was, or they need that salary cap, you could save almost 17.5 million, a little over 17.5 million by releasing him at that point. You'd still owe him 14.7 million during that year for him not playing on the team, which is less than ideal, but it is an out in that contract at that point. So you certainly get some cost savings by doing it this way. There's definitely more of this future hit where you're probably going to be paying him some significant money when potentially he's not playing. But when you're an all-in team and trying to make the most of a season, those are the sort of sacrifices that you have to make. Same sort of stuff happened with Kenny Clark and Aaron Jones's deal as well. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Always appreciate you joining me. Hopefully this makes you understand void years in a little bit greater detail. I'll be right back here tomorrow with an all-new episode. So make sure to join and make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.